Hey guys, this is Yoda. This will be my Vengeance Demon Hunter guide for the War Within Season 1, focused on Mythic Plus. At the moment, Vengeance Demon Hunter, I believe, is positioned as one of the top 2 tanks, if not the best tank, with Bear. It is relatively as tanky, it's much tankier against bosses, and a bit less tanky against Trash, so I'd say they're about equal. Raid buff is 3% after the nerf, and compared to Bear's 3% plus, its verse, so it's a little bit better than just 3% straight up damage. That said, Vengeance Demon Hunter is perfectly viable, definitely one of the top tanks right now. Without further ado, we will go into the talents. By the way, there'll be another video after this that talks about the rotation. This video is mostly just going to talk about talent builds and stats. All right, so for talents, we're going to talk about the left side first. Not much has changed since Dragonflight. There are a couple things. So Imprison is kind of working in every dungeon, I think, whereas in Dragonflight, there were a lot of dungeons that just had like a bunch of dragons or giants or something where Imprison didn't work. Imprison does work on, I think, in every dungeon. There's at least a few major uses, so I would play it basically by default. Chaos Fragments is a bit more valuable, especially with the Aldrachi build, because Aldrachi needs a lot more soul gen. But if you need Purge, which I think you don't really need Purge in a lot of dungeons, you can drop Chaos Fragments. You can also drop Chaos Fragments for Live by the Glaive if you want. Personally, I prefer Chaos Fragments, but generally, if you need a talent, it's Chaos Fragments that goes. At the bottom, I think we're playing Demon Muzzle in pretty much every key nowadays. Tanks are getting pounded on the beta, especially after they hotfixed 20% more damage onto the beta. So I'm playing kind of defensive talents down here. I always play Demon Muzzle, and I always play Pitch Black. Darkness is a lot more valuable than it was before, because a lot of the outgoing damage to the group is not as one-shotty. It's kind of like it happens in like a bunch of ticks, which makes Darkness actually reliable. Like, for instance, if you get one hit of like your whole health bar, then Darkness isn't reliable, right? 70% of the time you're just gonna die. But if that hit happens like over 3 seconds, and each hit is like, it's like 6 ticks of 1/5 of your health bar, then Darkness is suddenly way more valuable, because surely one of those 6 ticks at least is gonna proc, right, on Darkness. So Darkness is a lot stronger than it was before. Also, you can just Darkness for yourself more often, which is Pitch Black, which happens to kind of be needed after all the tank nerfs. So this is what we're playing on the left side. For hero talents, I think Aldrachi is better in most of the keys in high keys. That's because mainly of the self-healing that it provides from Thrill of the Fight. This is going to have relatively high uptime, like 70-ish%. It increases your damage and healing by 20%, and also Incorruptible Spirit. It did recently get hotfixed before it was like bugged and interacted with a bunch of stuff in weird ways. And most recently I did a key with this, and it was only like 10% of my healing, where it was like 30% or something before. That said, it is still quite strong, gives you a decent amount of self-healing, and Thrill of the Fight is also crazy for self-healing. For Aldrachi on the right side, Aldrachi and Fel-Scarred play different talents in my opinion on the right side. For Aldrachi, you'll notice we are playing a no Spirit Bomb build. According to my sims, in order to get Spirit Bomb, you would have to drop Soul Furnace and Ascending Flame, otherwise you'd have like really bad spike downtime by dropping this. On 7 targets, it broke even. Anything below that, my build with Soul Furnace simmed higher, and above 7, Spirit Bomb 1. And single target, Spirit Bomb, like the Spirit Bomb build was like way worse. So in my opinion, it's worth it to not play Spirit Bomb with Aldrachi Reaver. There's another misconception. People say, oh, you're generating a bunch of souls, surely you should play Spirit Bomb to eat those souls. That's actually a misconception. So the number of souls you generate is equal to the number of souls you eat. Every soul that you generate, if you generate above 5, it automatically eats the soul. You do not need to Spirit Bomb to eat the souls. The only thing Spirit Bomb actually allows you to do soul-wise that you can't do without it is it actually eats all the souls instantly. So if you need to like heal yourself immediately, you can do that, whereas without Spirit Bomb, you kind of heal yourself like it's more like a trickle of the same amount of healing. In my opinion, that's not really anything you play around. If you don't need Spirit Bomb, you don't need Spirit Bomb. So these are the talents I'm playing. We are playing Illuminated Sigils with Aldrachi Reaver. That's because I think if you play Down in Flames, you should be prepared to basically have like super high uptime on either Meta or Firebrand, and whenever you don't have those, you're like in grave danger. Aldrachi doesn't really have the tools to have that, so in my opinion, you should just play around Illuminated Sigils so you have decent Sigil Flame uptime, and a lot of the time you're going to be tanking the pack with like just Sigil Flame and Spikes, but with Aldrachi Self-Sustain, that kind of is enough a lot of the time too. Towards the bottom, we also have some choices. So you have Soulmonger, Focus Cleave, and Dark Lair Boon. You can pick 2 out of 3, and one of them has to be, basically one of them has to be up here, but there's always one up here. This is my preferred setup right now. Soulmonger is a lot more valuable than in Dragonflight because you're generating a lot more souls on low targets, so it's actually doing something on like tough low target pulls. Also, when you're shielded by Soulmonger, Previously in Dragonflight, if you built up a max health shield with Soulmonger, it was effectively only 10% max health, and you had so much self-healing that it was kind of like blocking the rest of your self-healing from working. Nowadays, VDH, and especially all the tanks, but especially VDH, has its self-healing nerfed, so any amount of self-healing that you can get, you will take from Soulmonger. Also, Soulmonger is protecting your Incorruptible Spirit shield. So it's not as big of a deal with the nerfs to Incorruptible Spirit, but basically while you're at max health shielded, even if you consume souls, you're still like building up your max health with Incorruptible Spirit. Whereas before you were kind of just like sitting at max, and if you didn't have defensives, you would still die. Focus Cleave obviously is purely for damage. Note that we are not playing Spirit Bomb, so if you drop Focus Cleave, that is quite a large DPS loss on single target, and even on like low target count, it'll lose all the extra damage you get on the main target. But you know, sometimes you just need to play to live, especially with all the tank nerfs. So Dark Lair Boon is kind of a viable choice here. So this would be my build if you're having a lot of trouble surviving, but in my opinion, it's worth like trying just a little bit to play for damage without Dark Lair Boon and with Focus Cleave. We also have 2 spike talents. This is generally enough to have high enough uptime on spikes, because with Aldrachi, we're generating a lot of souls. All right, so that is the Aldrachi talent build. Next, we'll go over Fel-Scarred. Fel-Scarred is way more simple, both to play and to talent. I don't know why I did that. I have a saved Fel-Scarred build here. So with Fel-Scarred, we do want to talent Spirit Bomb, even though our Tierset is really good with Soul Cleave, and Burning Blades is like even better with Soul Cleave than whatever Aldrachi had. That is because when you play Fel-Scarred, whenever you use Feldev, it empowers both your Soul Cleave and your Spirit Bomb with Demon Surge, and if you don't talent Spirit Bomb, then you just can't use half of it. Same thing with meta. It empowers Soul Cleave, Spirit Bomb, Immolation Aura, Feldev, and Sigil of Flame. If you don't have Spirit Bomb, that's just -1 Demon Surge. So it's pretty much just always worth it to play Spirit Bomb. In general, Fel-Scarred has higher defensive uptime, since you have high meta uptime due to Violent Transformation. And you also randomly get a free Feldev after meta. I'm not sure if that is a bug or if they're going to change that, but you do get a random free Feldev after meta, so that's an extra 12 seconds of meta that the Aldrachi build doesn't have every 2 minutes. Because of that extra defensive uptime, I think it's better to play more into Down in Flames. Also, you are kind of encouraged to use Firebrand with meta, because a lot of your damage is in Demon Surge, which gets buffed by Fire Demise. So when possible, you do want to kind of use an extra brand there. So use brand there, so having like an extra one that you can just float around plus a lower cooldown makes that less of like a defensive loss. So since you're also talented in Down in Flames, you are allowed to drop Fel Flame Fortification and Chains of Anger. These were kind of only used to extend your Sigil of Flame, and you don't really need that high Sigil of Flame uptime anymore without Illuminated Sigils, and you also don't have the Dragonflight tier set, or Dragonflight Season 3 and 4 tier set, so high Sigil of Flame uptime is not super important. If you do end up trying to play Illuminated Sigils with this, then obviously make sure you talent these. But with my build with Fiery Brand, you actually don't need them. Also, we are playing, even though we're talenting to Spear Bomb, we are doing a full Soul Cleave rotation pretty much on almost all target counts, maybe like super high target counts you wouldn't, mainly because of Burning Blades and the tier set, which makes Volatile Flameblood very valuable. If you don't want to talent Volatile Flameblood, if you need Flow Flame Fortification, you can drop Soul Furnace for it. And if you need Chains, or if you decide to play with Illuminated Sigils, so you need Chains of Anger, then you can drop Volatile Flameblood for that. All right, so those are the choices with Fel-Scarred. Obviously, if you're dying, then you can also play Soulmonger, but it's not nearly as valuable as it was with Aldrachi. All right, so those are the 2 talent builds that I've been playing. Let's talk about stats. So Haste is going to be your best stat. It's giving you basically more soul gen, more frailty gen, more everything. So we really like Haste. Crit and Verse are our next 2 best stats. It's kind of unclear which one is better right now. There was some point on beta where Verse was like buffing the bugged Incorruptible Spirit, so Verse was like omega valuable. Now it's not as valuable, so I would say Crit and Verse are kind of equal, since you kind of want high parry chance and you also kind of want to do more damage and healing. So I would say they're kind of equal. I would probably just take whichever one does more damage or sims higher for damage. Mastery is complete trash. You want to avoid Mastery as much as possible. It does give you a little bit of damage, as we mentioned earlier, but it's usually not worth it. You need a stat for defensives, and the other stats are also, not bad offensively either. For embellishments, I think all leather tanks are looking to play Adrenal Surge Clasp, and especially for VDH, this is really good because it lets you sacrifice Mastery, which is your worst stat, for agility, and you are going to be playing the new quote-unquote toxic patch. Basically, it just doubles your Nerubian embellishments instead of your toxic ones. and Adrenal Surge Collapse counts as Nerubian, so you're doubling that. As far as trinkets go, they did recently do a tuning pass, so some of the trinkets that I didn't consider viable may now be viable, such as Sormo's Authority is probably still bad because it doesn't give you main stat. Foul Behemoth's Chelicero is considered like okay now. But if you want to just play what we played on beta, it'll be the Mercurial Egg, which is a stat stick from the raid, and the Arakara Sacroot, which is basically another stat stick. As far as gems go, don't look at my gear. It's kind of weird because I had like early beta gear, which when you were still able to socket with 3, but basically you're gonna have 2 sockets here, so just cut off 1 gem. There is also like a new main stat gem. It's 181 main stat, and it gives you plus some crit effect per unique gem color. So a gem color is basically whatever gem you have in the front, like the higher stat, is the color of the gem. So if this is a blue gem, it has high verse. This is a red gem, it has high crit. This is a purple gem, it has high mastery. So you definitely want to use at least the first 3. So high verse, high crit, and high haste gems. And then the high mastery gem, you can use it if you want for a damage gain, but personally, it's probably not worth it. Also, it's only 1 gem, so it doesn't really matter that much. What do you decide? For your tier set is definitely quite good with the 2-piece. The 4-piece is kind of like complete trash. It may have some applications in Raid, but in Mythic Plus, I even find myself like canceling my Fel-Dev half the time. So the 4-piece isn't that valuable. However, it doesn't cost that much to wear it. Like, you kind of have like haste verse or crit verse on all the pieces, or crit haste. You do have to wear this chest, which is like high crit slow mastery, which is kind of unfortunate. If you wanted to play 2-piece and 0-piece and just instead throw on like a random haste verse or crit haste chest, you could do that. 4-piece is like so bad in keys, it's like almost worth it's almost worth considering just straight up taking it off for random better stat pieces of gear. But anyway, that is the Embellishments, Trinkets, and stats. So that's pretty much the gear. The next video will cover the rotation. Fel-Scarred is quite a bit more simpler than